At the height of the Mayan Empire, a rich trade existed. Farmers traded with craftsmen who traded with traders, and goods were moved all over the Yucatan Peninsula. The system and networks got so advanced and brought so much prosperity that cities were able to be built and giant stoneworks produced. Then the climate shifted. Water for the farmers dried up, causing some of them to quit. This reduced the food that they could trade with the merchants and craftsmen. This reduced their prosperity to the point that living in the jungle was more logical than that of living in the city, and the cascade effect hit the point that the Mayan Empire became a piece of history. There's evidence that the Canaanite Empire went through the same thing, and when they rose again, they were known as the Hebrews. What makes any community thrive is first a source of fuel, and secondly connections. Without these connections, there can be no trade of ideas with the right people who want and need them. This is why cell phones are revolutionizing Africa, because farmers and traders are for the first time being connected much better with their buyers, and they can find people who want to buy in ways impossible before. I made a video 6 months ago discussing the collapse of YouTube atheist community. I got a lot of people telling me that YouTube atheism was stupid anyway, and how many times can you repeat that there's no God? It looks like a lot of these new YouTube atheists, however, were just too new to have the example shown to them as to how to build a community. Community grows via connections, and without it, the community dries up. 13 heathens took my advice to heart and started shoutouts tags, which created a wave of new people to subscribe to. Just like with my video on ex-Muslim atheists, there are more out there, and many of them great, than I could have ever imagined, and my subscription box was refilled with good providers. I just didn't know how to find them and never could have found them on my own. As for the argument, how many times can you make arguments against God? Well, that's where the fuel source comes in. You can only repeat atheist arguments so many times to one person, and they lose interest over time. It's normal. But more and more people are coming online every day. By 2020, there will be 3 billion new users, many of whom are hungry for new information. There are newly deconverted people who feel alone and isolated, who need the feeling of an active community, and people they know they can ask questions to in their journey towards truth and evidence. I get at least a person every month asking me questions, and about 50% of the time I help them through their doubt. They need this. Just because you've heard all the arguments doesn't mean these new people haven't, and just flooding them with the old channels will just overwhelm them. New content providers allows for piecemeal, and they help the new atheists find older content they may not know about. Older material is harder to find in searches. I really thought there would be a resurgence after the Reason rally, and then shit with Thunderfoot happened, that divided everyone. Everyone piled on Biotic Dance, and of course the A+A- wars, which everyone seems to hate as well. Let's just say there's been little to nothing positive on YouTube this summer. The fun is kinda dead, and very few follow Sagan's rules of skepticism like the principle of charity. It takes me 3 whole days these days to get the drive to put a video up. I don't feel like I'm part of something bigger than myself. I feel like we're kind of in a Mad Max desert. Nothing is nurturing about it, and the jackals are picking fights and picking off the weak with each other now, just to show how much smarter they are than other people instead of engaging in any real dialogue. They talk about how arrogant Thunderfoot and all the big-name atheists are. Well, that's kind of pot calling the kettle black. Big problem with atheists is that most of us are used to being the smartest people in the room, and when we get together, we expect the same treatment. The great thing about having multiple smartest people in the same room is that we all have great strengths and fields of knowledge to add to the conversation. But since we're all used to being loners, we don't have the first clue how to work together. And when the networking and nurturing of big channels toward little channels goes away, all that's left is a bunch of angry people who don't have the first clue on how to actually educate and debate without being assholes. Most religious people usually aren't all that brilliant, but what they lack in genius they make up for in groupthink and organization, which is why they're such a force to be reckoned with. An ant is a tiny thing and weak, but an intellectual army ant colony can strip an injured large mammal in no time flat. Just because you don't feel like you were part of the atheist community doesn't mean it didn't exist, and it really helped me before I got my local community. Thunderfoot responded to that video on the issue in a comment and just sums up his arrogance and certainty succinctly. Note the absolute certainty, the absolute lack of ability to stop and think, and, oh wait, I might be wrong about this. Like he's an American news channel making a claim about a new discovery as opposed to, say, a more open-ended BBC one. I like Thunderfoot the person. I had dinner with him, and he's a great atheist and scientist and just blows me away with what he knows. But I could make an entire video series, just as long as Why Do People Laugh at Creationists, with a series called How Thunderfoot Violates Sagan's Laws of Skepticism. He's not a skeptic in any sense of the word, and relies solely on his own ideas and personal experience to base his certainties on. For some reason, past creationism and religion and his own scientific field, that's where his skepticism kind of stops. If it doesn't fall into his own particular arena of experience, then therefore he must be right, of course. I'm going to stand by what I said. The atheist community is dying through a lack of nurturing, and this last bit is just kind of a kick while it's down. The atheist community was a real thing and a source of major support for many people, especially if they were in an isolated part of the world. It may find its way back up. I don't know. I have a few people I like, such as Jason and his puppets, and I get a nice surprise on the rare occasion when a past producer puts something out. But I really haven't been stimulated by any new fresh ideas because, well, there aren't any new fresh ideas out there. There's race realism and antinatalism and men's rights activism that everyone wants to pwn, but that seems to be about it. Even if you disagree that Atheism Plus is not the new wave we need, the atheist community needs a major surge of energy and enthusiasm, or there's really nothing left. There's not much fun, which is why I'm going to do a shoutouts set. And I want everyone to do a wave of shoutouts. What I want you to do is I want you to go to your YouTube likes of the people that you've liked recently, because we want to find people who are active and people that you happen to think need a little bit of a leg up, and that I might find interesting, or just anyone. I'm going to go with Quills. Let's see who else is around here who needs some shouting out that I haven't done already and, well, isn't bigger than me. Let's go with LJ on YT. I actually met her when I was down hanging out with Thunderfoot and Zonstar and DPR Jones. Truth of the People, he's really good. He goes through and discusses the bullshit propaganda stories that the religious use and just kind of breaks, shreds them to bits as to how stupid they are. I know I had a few other of these people here. Give me 1 second. And this, of course, took a bit longer, but I'm doing some editing too. So, Chris Rada 2. She is actually an author of several books. One's called Lying for Jesus, and she just goes through and takes the Christian arguments by people like David Barton, who lie for Jesus about American history, and just kind of shreds them using actual documentation. She's a real historian, and it's really an eye-opener as to just how progressively thinking and free-thinking and very much anti-religion our founding fathers really were. And she's got documents and site sourcing to back it all up, and it just shows just how happy the Christians are to just lie their asses off about rewriting our founding fathers as if they were these super religious right people. And we'll go with Dazzletag. He's pretty funny. And yeah, I think that covers everything. So please make a shout out video for 5 people in your likes area, especially if they seem like one that I would like, but anyone would like, and put them in as a response video. I'm ready to have my subscription box refilled and get my brain refreshed so I can get back to making more videos. I really haven't felt like it, and I want to fix that. So, have a good one, guys.